My name is Colin Hacker, and today I'll be telling this. This is my personal mythology project, and so I will be telling the story about the Comanche, the legend of the Manitou Springs, and also my personal story, the tale of two brothers. So, without further ado, let us begin. So, my original story comes from the Comanche, which the Comanche were a tribe that was that is most predominantly located on the southern Midwestern plains and around northern Texas, spanning up all the way to Colorado. They were originally part of the Shoshone tribe, but they eventually separated back in the 1500s from them for reasons unknown. But this major event would help shape the Comanche, actually create the own identity of the Comanche people. So they moved to the plains eventually during the 1600s then, and originally their main means of transportation was just by their own 2 feet then. They were hunter-gatherers then, and mostly they only possessed dogs as their only animals that they had for companions then. Now, eventually, during the 1680s, horses would be introduced into them, and then soon the horse would just transform their entire nation overnight into the empire that they are now known as today. The Comanche then became this vast empire over the plains then, and they would often raid and pillage, attack anybody they came into contact with, even doing some very interesting things such as raiding forts down in the south of the U.S. and then going up to the eastern frontier and trading back the supplies with the U.S. military for other stuff then. And now they would rule over the plains up until the middle of the 1800s then, in which the U.S. military forced them to be put back onto reservations then. And that is where they mainly reside in today, in the western parts of Oklahoma on mainly reservations. The legend of Manitou Springs explains one of the most important parts of the history of the Comanche people, which is the separation of the Comanche and the Shoshone. Now, the story takes place up in northern Colorado, which is where the Comanche and the Shoshone were originally a part of and located at there. And so, it just takes place on a small little stream off of Big River. And these two hunters, now one hunter was successful in his hunt, the other one was not. The one who was successful was a Shoshone, while the other one was a Comanche. Now the Comanche was thirsty and he was parched from his hunt, and so he was eager to go and drink and satisfy this thirst. The other one took his time, gave thanks to the gods for the stream to be able to quench his thirst, and also thank the gods for his successful hunt. The Comanche grew jealous of the Shoshone, and he started to get into an argument with him, and eventually the Shoshone would respond back and would give him an answer he did not like. And so eventually the Shoshone ends the argument and just goes back to drinking water. The Comanche started to feel his jealousy grew more and more from the Shoshone for his embarrassment that he felt. And he waited for an opportunity to take advantage and to strike at the Shoshone. While the Shoshone hunter stooped down and took a drink from the stream, the Comanche sprung into action and pushed and drowned the Shoshone in the creek. The gods became very upset at this, and they would curse the Comanche to be able to not be a part of the Shoshone anymore. And so it would be the stream from which the Shoshone was murdered in bubbled and hissed so as no soul could ever drink from it again. But the gods would be kind to the Shoshone, and they would go and they would create another stream in the honor of the hunter, who was a brave, notable warrior. And now to this day, the Shoshone and the Comanche are separated and are at war, and were at war at the time then. And they were in constant conflict, and they could never be a part of the same thing ever again. My tale is called The Tale of Two Brothers. Now, in the beginning, there was a land full of people. They prospered and they thrived together. They shared the same language. They worshipped the same gods. They had the same traditions and also the same holidays as well. Now, this nation was led by one ruler, and this ruler had two sons. The ruler was a notable wise man, and so he was looking for whenever he knew that he was about to pass on soon. He was thinking about his succession and his two sons. The oldest of the son was set to inherit the entire land, but the oldest son was ambitious. He was headstrong. He was one who was only focused on of getting the title of being able to rule. The youngest one was wise, and he was patient. He was kind. He was caring to his subjects then. And so the ruler, in trying to play the best of both worlds, then decided to divide the land in two. And so, whenever the oldest son heard this decree, he was enraged with his father. He tried to convince him that this was a horrible decision he was making. He pleaded with him that he should rethink this and to make him the sole inheritant of the land. The youngest one patiently thanked his father then, and also said that, but he could see that his brother was becoming jealous of him for maintaining half the nation. And so he also told his father then to go and change his mind as well. The father thought hard on this one, and he originally thought about actually giving the oldest of the son, back all the land. But then he stuck to his gut and gave half of his land to his youngest son and the other half to his oldest. The father would soon pass on, and his decree for the land was split into two. The oldest one would soon immediately begin to become more and more jealous, as his decisions to rule the nation began to ruin his own, while the younger brother's patience and his kindness helped his nation prosper. So while one brother failed, the other one succeeded more and more. He became more and more envious of his younger brother, and soon he would declare war against him in trying to seize the rest of the land and seize his prosperity, but also to make his younger brother and his people suffer for humiliating him. Eventually, the battles would rage on for years and years, and the two brothers would finally meet on the field of battle. It was a long and hard fight, but eventually the oldest brother would come out on top. And so, when he looked down at his younger brother, asking for mercy then, and to think of them and remember the times that they shared together and the memories they cherished, the oldest struck his younger brother down in the field. The skies soon blackened, and the thunder soon rolled across the land. The gods have not favored the actions of the older brother, and soon the land would be divided immediately in two by a great water that separated it, the west and the east. The younger brother, his body would be cursed to be barren, while the older brother was cursed to wander the land, losing all of the respect of his people and not being able to go back to see his land that he once ruled over so proudly. Now, the similarities between these two stories, well, it's two people from the same nation who share many characteristics. Like in the two brothers, they had a similar background. Then they were both of equal status. They had shared the same customs, traditions, all that sort of thing, just as they did in the Manitoba Springs. They both still had their own individual identities, but they were very closely connected to one another. Now, jealousy would be a responsibility, would be the main cause of the heinous crimes being committed, whether it be going to war and murdering his brothers, such as in the Tale of Two Brothers, or with the other one growing envious of the successful hunter and also properly taking the time to thank the gods for his hunt, as in the Tale of Manitoba Springs. Now, there would also be divine intervention on both parties then too, with one party being, while in Manitoba Springs, the jealous hunter, who was also the murderer, would be struck down and killed at the site of his crime, while the other one would be cursed to wander the land endlessly and could never be able to visit the spot again. The area or the place that the younger brother was slain then on the field of battle would be barren, and nothing could ever use it to raise crops or raise cattle or any sort of livestock on it, just as no one could be able to drink out of the spring then from which the Shoshone man was murdered in. And the conflict is still, and just as in as in Manitou Springs, the Comanche and the Shoshone are still in they were still in conflict for generations beyond that point then, while in the Tale of Two Brothers then the land was while the two nations never actually did reconnect and restore themselves into the once proud nation they were. And a great river divided the two nations to be separate from one another in the Tale of Two Brothers, while the creek is poisoned, and while another one is formed in honor of the Shoshone man as well. So, thank you for the analysis, and thank you for taking your time to listen to me.